Hello, dear warrior. You didn't ask to be a character, but you became the plot twist. Let me break it to you gently. You were never supposed to be remembered. You were supposed to disappear quietly, fade like background noise, blend in like wallpaper behind louder, flashier fools. But you didn't. You showed up different. You moved different. You stopped talking and the silence got loud. They didn't just notice, they fixated, studied, obsessed, created group chats, started conversations that always somehow looped back to you. Not because you begged, not because you bragged, but because you became the glitch in their safe little matrix. They watch your stories in silence. They replay your words like a warning. They analyze your mood, your moves, your mute button. You didn't just make noise. You rented space in their heads and paid in stillness. And now, they can't scroll without you. Can't sleep without you. Can't make a plan without calculating what you might do next. They tried to erase you from the script. Instead, you became the main character. And the worst part for them? You didn't even audition. You live in their doubts now, and that's what keeps them awake. They'll never admit it. But their doubt, it has your face. Their hesitation sounds like your silence. Their overthinking, that spiral they can't control anymore, that's you haunting the background music of their brain. They pretend you're not a factor. They act like you don't matter. But guess what? They double-check their captions because you might see it. They edit their tone because you might feel it. They second-guess their confidence because you already broke it once. You live in that space right before they hit send. You live in that moment right before they speak, when they wonder, what would they think? Are they watching? What if they're 3 steps ahead again? You didn't just win the battle. You corrupted the software. You invaded the system. You infected their certainty. You are no longer a person to them. You are a warning, and every move they make now has one purpose. Don't wake you. Don't trigger you. Don't remind the room that you still exist, because if you ever moved again, they know it's game over. They tried to downplay you until you made silence louder than their spotlight. They thought if they ignored you, you'd disappear, fade out, burn slow. But what they didn't understand, silence isn't weakness. Silence is strategy. While they posted selfies for applause, you rebuilt your mind in the dark. While they chased followers, you chased fire. Real, relentless, internal. They clapped for noise. You chose stillness. And that silence? It started echoing. Not in your room, in theirs. At 2 a.m., when the room's too quiet, and their confidence starts cracking. That's when they hear you the loudest. Because you didn't leave the spotlight. You blinded it. You didn't run from attention. You became so dangerous they had to pretend you never existed. But here's the thing. Legend, they're still watching, still lurking, still listening for the day you decide to speak again. Because the silence you built, it owns the room. Now. Not the noise. Not the clout. You. And you made sure of one thing. When they talk now, they whisper. Your calm turned violent, and now they flinch when you smile. You used to get loud. You used to fight back. You used to explain yourself to people who were never listening. But now, you just smile. Not because you're soft, not because you're healed, but because you're finished. See, they don't realize that calm isn't peace. It's precision. It's pressure, tightly coiled, waiting for a reason to explode. And the moment they see your grin, that little upturn in your lip, they panic because they remember the last time you smiled like that, and it ended with them bleeding. You taught them something without saying a word. The loudest man in the room is scared, but the calmest one, he's already decided. You don't bark anymore. You calculate. You don't react. You record. And when you do move, it's surgical, it's permanent, and it's poetic. They thought the new you would be safer. They were wrong. This version of you isn't angry. It's unpredictable. And that's worse, because now when you smile, they flinch, because they don't know if it means peace or punishment. They thought you'd break, but you broke the rules instead. They were counting on your collapse, waiting for the meltdown, scheduling your failure like it was on their calendar. But here's what they never expected. You didn't fold. You flipped the whole table. They gave you a script. You burned it. They built walls. You learned to walk through them. They set traps. You made them your training ground. You didn't just survive the pressure. You became the pressure. And now every rule they swore by, every line they thought you'd never cross, you crossed it blindfolded, smiling, silent, cold. They wanted predictable. You gave them legendary. They prepared for breakdowns. You delivered blueprints. They still ask themselves, how did they get here? Where did we go wrong? But here's the answer. They followed rules. You followed purpose. And purpose, it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait its turn. It rewrites the system. You weren't supposed to win. You were supposed to quit, crack, vanish. But instead, you hacked the game, took the throne, and made sure they'd never feel safe again. They still talk about you, but none of them can say your name without shaking. They try not to bring you up. They change the subject. They cough when your name comes close, but that silence, it's louder than a scream, because they still talk about you. They just don't say it out loud anymore. Why? Because your name, it doesn't just carry weight, it carries aftershocks. Every time they hear it, they flinch, they freeze. They remember the version of you they tried to destroy, and the version of you that showed up anyway. Your name feels like a closed door they can't unlock, like a test they failed in front of everyone. It's not a conversation anymore, it's a confession. They'll ask each other quietly, you seen them lately? They still doing that thing. But what they're really asking is, are they still rising? Are we still losing? And when they try to mock you, you know what happens? Their voice cracks, their hands twitch, their ego trembles. Because somewhere deep in their chest they know, you were the storm they laughed at before it swallowed the sky. Your name used to be an afterthought. Now, it's the unspoken headline. A name they can't forget. A presence they can't replace. And a legend they'll never outrun. They tried to move on, but you turned their future into a haunted house. They thought walking away from you meant peace, healing, silence. But they didn't walk away from you, legend. They walked into a mirror that still reflects your name on every surface. They see your face in every opportunity they missed. They hear your voice in every plan that fails. They feel your silence in every room that doesn't feel safe anymore. You don't live in their world. You haunt it. And the worst part, you didn't chase them. You didn't call. You didn't scream, "Remember me." You just moved in silence and let your progress echo louder than their entire support system. Every room they enter, there's a version of you watching. Not literally, but emotionally. You're in the questions they can't answer, the goals they gave up on, the standard they can't reach anymore. They changed their clothes, moved cities, blocked numbers, unfollowed accounts. But they couldn't unfollow the feeling that you made it, and they didn't. You don't show up with revenge in your heart. You show up by accident and still make the whole house shake. They're not afraid of ghosts. They're afraid of the fact that you're not one. You're still alive, still rising, still watching. And that's what turns every future moment into a memory of the day they lost you and never got over it. They made you the villain, but forgot villains don't need permission to win. At first, you wanted to explain. You wanted to clear your name, to fix their twisted version of your story. But one day you realized they don't want truth. They want a target. So you stopped defending yourself and started building your empire in the shadows they cast you in. They called you the villain? Good. Because villains don't ask for respect. They take it. Villains don't wait for applause. They own the room by making everyone else feel small. You were never the bad one, but you became the one they had to blame. Because your success, it challenged their comfort. Your strength, it embarrassed their excuses. Your silence, it shattered their ego. They needed a reason to feel better about staying the same. So they painted you in black and hoped your light would fade. But it didn't. It glowed harder. It burned brighter, until it lit up all the lies they told themselves about you. And now, they whisper, they've changed. They're cold. They're not like before. You're not. Because before you were trying to be liked. Now, you're just being legendary. You didn't become heartless. You became untouchable. And villains like you don't just win. They become the plot twist that flips the whole script. They don't want to admit it, but you're the reason they keep pushing themselves. They say they don't watch you, that they don't care, that they don't compare. But late at night, you're the benchmark. They check your stories, replay your wins, stalk your silence, all while pretending they don't see you. They call it motivation, but it's more than that. It's insecurity dressed as ambition. Because deep down, you're the trigger that keeps their fake confidence on life support. You never told them to be better. You just were. You never asked them to follow. You just kept moving. And now every time they slack off, skip a step, or start lying to themselves again, it's your face that flashes in their mind like a siren. You became the internal voice they never asked for, but can't silence. They try to act like they don't care. But if you stopped, if you gave up tomorrow, they'd feel it. Like withdrawal. Like losing a rival they never admitted they had. You didn't just inspire them, you exposed them. And now, they grind not to win, but to keep up with the one person they used to laugh at. You were never their enemy. But now, you're their motivation, their secret obsession, their standard. And that legend is power they'll never admit out loud. They laughed at the struggle, but now they study the strategy. Back then, they called you desperate, lost, embarrassing. They pointed fingers, cracked jokes, shared screenshots. Your lowest moments became their group chat entertainment. But here's the funny part. Now those same people, they're copying everything you used to cry through. They mocked the 5 a.m. grind. Now they post rise and grind. They clowned your discipline. Now they write fake captions about focus. They laughed at your silence. Now they call it mysterious energy. You bled for this. And now they wear your scars like they earned them. But legend, they don't understand the cost. They don't know what it took to not quit, to not break, to not disappear when everyone told you to. They want the results, not the nights you screamed into a pillow, not the sacrifices, not the betrayal, not the isolation, just the aesthetic. But here's the difference. You lived it. They borrowed it. And borrowed power doesn't last. You didn't just build a path. You built it on your own back while they were throwing stones from the sidelines. And now they want your throne without surviving your hell. But you made the struggle look legendary. So now everyone acts like they believed in you all along? Let them pretend. Because the ones who watched you drown now take swimming lessons based on your survival. They used to laugh at the dream. Now they're scared it's becoming reality. They used to say, that'll never happen. That's not realistic. They're doing too much. But you kept moving, kept building, kept sharpening in silence while their mouths stayed busy. Now, the numbers are showing. The glow up is visible. The energy hits different. And suddenly, the jokes got quiet. They used to laugh at the vision. Now they flinch when it starts coming true. Because if you, the one they dismissed, disrespected and dragged, if you rise, that means they were wrong about you, about life, about themselves. And that's what scares them most. Not your success, but what your success says about their comfort zone. Because you were proof that you don't need connections, money, or approval to burn the whole script and write your own. You didn't beg, you built. You didn't chase attention. You became undeniable. And now, they're watching your dream unfold in real time, with front row seats to the story they said would never happen. It's not a dream anymore. It's a documented reality. And now the only thing keeping them awake at night is the fear that you're just getting started. They called you obsessed. But that obsession made you unstoppable. They called it unhealthy. Too much. Too intense. They said, relax. You're doing the most. Nobody's watching. Funny thing is, now everybody's watching. They didn't understand. It wasn't about attention. It wasn't about validation. It was about escaping the version of you that was too scared to try. You weren't obsessed with winning. You were obsessed with becoming. The kind of becoming that turns pain into power, silence into strategy, failure into fuel. While they chased balance, you chased breakthrough. While they wanted comfort, you wanted clarity. And clarity comes after 100,000 days of being misunderstood. They laughed when you said no to parties, rolled their eyes when you disappeared, mocked your discipline like it was a weakness. But now, they're choking on the dust you left behind when you outworked their entire bloodline. You didn't want fame, you wanted freedom. You didn't want clout, you wanted control. And obsession, that was the price. And legend, you paid in full. Now they call you lucky. Now they say it happened overnight. But they don't know the nights you went to war with yourself, just to make sure you never went back. You weren't obsessed with proving them wrong. You were obsessed with never being that version of you again. And that's what made you unbreakable. You weren't built to be liked. You were built to be legendary. They wanted you polite, predictable, pleasing. They wanted you soft so they could feel stronger. But here's what they didn't understand. You were never born to be liked. You were born to be impossible to ignore. Legends aren't loved in real time. They're misunderstood, mocked, feared, tested. Because the energy you carry, it threatens everything they settled for. You stopped trying to fit in the moment you realized fitting in was the fastest way to go invisible. And you were born to leave a mark. You gave up popularity for power. You sacrificed approval for authenticity. They said you've changed. You smiled, because that was the whole point. They still try to measure you with the same yardsticks they use on each other. But you're not on the same map. You don't play for attention. You play for immortality. You want them to remember you, even if they never liked you. Because when it's all over, when the dust settles and the noise dies out, the people who smiled for the crowd will be forgotten. But the one who built alone will echo forever. They used to laugh at your silence, now they fear it. They used to ask why you were so quiet, why you didn't respond, why you disappeared. They said things like, "You fell off. Where'd they go? Guess they gave up." But silence, legend, that was the strategy. While they posted for attention, you were plotting alignment. While they bragged about consistency, you were building intensity. And while they filled every room with noise, you let the absence speak louder than presence ever could. At first, they took your silence as surrender. But now, that same silence feels like a loaded weapon. They check your page more than they check their own reflection. Because when someone like you goes quiet, something massive is about to move. They fear what they can't predict. And you became a storm they couldn't track. A shadow with no pattern. A force without a warning sign. They scroll in panic. They ask mutuals. They whisper your name in rooms where they once screamed it in mockery. And all you had to do was say nothing. Because that silence, it wasn't weakness. It was preparation, recovery, transformation. And now, they don't ask where are you anymore. They ask what are they planning. And legend, they should be scared. Because your next move isn't coming with a sound, it's coming with an earthquake. You didn't just change the game, you became the game. They thought you were a player, a competitor, a wild card. But now, you're the standard, the blueprint, the entire reason people even show up. They copy your style, mirror your moves, quote your words like gospel, but never give credit. And that's fine, because gods don't need credit. You didn't just change the rules, you ripped them up, burned the manual, then built your own from dust, pain, and discipline. And now the same people who laughed at your start are building empires using your first draft. They play for trophies, you play for time. They want applause, you want immortality. Because while they try to go viral, you've already gone legend. They study you in silence now. Watch your silence like it's a language. Because you didn't just win. You redefined how winning even looks. You are not the underdog anymore. You are not the rebel. You are the blueprint, the system, the whisper they try to suppress but can't stop hearing. You moved in silence, spoke in storms, and taught the world one truth. Legends aren't born, they're built in shadows, tested in silence, and crowned in chaos. And now, you are the chaos. Not the one who entered the game, the one who became it.